Hey, what's up guys? John here. New York City has now allocated billions of dollars in taxpayer revenue to fund the migrant crisis.
Mayor Eric Adams says the migrant crisis will destroy New York City and cost $12 billion over the next 3 years.
Mayor Adams laying out budget cuts across every city agency, from libraries to schools and even the NYPD.
And no surprise, he's blaming the cuts on the migrant crisis.
But when you look into this even deeper, what you're going to see is a major overhaul to the entire economy, not just in New York City, but this is coming nationwide. The list of cities and states that are going to be impacted, shocking. I'm going to show you what they are and who they are. I'm going to show you what's about to happen here. I mean, they've committed to cutting over $2 billion just from the education department. They told parents that they need to go into their schools to watch their kids because it might not be safe.
And we're going to be leaning into parents and parent groups to do some volunteerism. We're going to lean into our crisis management team.
They're firing 4,000 cops inside of New York City. I mean, what's happening? It's unbelievable. It's unreal. They're changing the entire food system in New York City. I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to show you the facts. I'm going to show you what's really going on to position you for what I think is going to be a pretty crazy future and a lot of opportunity. I think we're going to see a lot of people forced to sell. We're going to see a lot of people being pushed to a position to where, investors are going to start scooping up properties. It's the unfortunate reality that we're living in, but it's the fact. That's what's going to happen. So it's either going to be middle-class America trying to scoop up and buy a couple properties, or it's going to be Wall Street taking over Main Street. I'm going to break it down for you. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to educate the people about what's really going on. And if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for what will definitely be the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video to schedule a free strategy session. If you're interested in participating in this massive wealth transfer, you're going to need great credit. Look at this. So, Eric Adams slashes budget for police, libraries, and schools. Now, if you look at what he's saying that one of his major initiatives is rats and climate. So let's take a look at what this actually means, right? What this actually means. They say that we've already had 2.4 million migrants that have been apprehended in the southern border so far in 2023. 2.4 million, right? So imagine the ones that were not apprehended. And then you have 118,000 in New York City. So you just have to ask yourself, it's not a political stance, but it's just a position. Who, if you were to pick up and move somewhere to another country, where would you get a job? How would you survive? How would you feed yourself? How would you feed your family? You would need assistance, right? Someone would need to come in and help you, right? And so when you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people coming to the country, they're going to need assistance, right? And how are they going to get funded? They're going to get funded through taxpayers, right? Taxpayers that basically don't have any money. A lot of people, even making $100,000 a year, are struggling, right? So when you look at what's happening and you kind of look at the chain of events that are going to unfold, this is the massive push. The middle class is getting decimated right before our very eyes. Look at where these sanctuary cities are. Look at how this is all playing out. So the list of sanctuary states: California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Utah, Vermont, Washington. And you look at the cities, I mean, it's unbelievable, right? So if New York's only taking in 118,000 and there's, let's call it 2 million, 3 million, where did the other, 1.8, 2 million go, right? They went all across America. So you're going to see very, very similar patterns unfold here. Let's look at the main driver to this that a lot of people are not talking about, which I think is the most important, or one of the most important. It's this new Local Law 97, which is actually already solidified in places like San Francisco, Los Angeles. A lot of cities nationwide are moving in the same exact direction. So look at this. Look at this lady, probably worked her entire life to buy a condo, in New York. And she says, this is going to be a backbreaker. Like, it's basically the finish, right? Here's what the costs are. This is by law. Like, by law, they have to do this. And so when Mayor Adams says that, his signature initiatives is climate, you have to look at what this would actually mean. So they say, Frederick, right here, he said, here, the cost of development to bring full compliance Local Law 97 would approach $50 million for his building. He said the entire development, built shortly after World War II, would have to be rewired with electrical heaters installed in units. He said it would cost about $20,000 per unit just for the wires. This is money we don't have for work we don't need. Frederick, who has been working with the energy consulting company, said that Glen Oaks development would be fined $394,000 each year starting in 2024 if no work is done, which would jump to $1.5 million per year in 2030 and would climb. He estimates that penalties would hit $38 million by 2050. The development, he said, currently has 96 boilers that run on oil and gas that are working order. He said if the board were to upgrade the boilers to be the most energy efficient available, it would cost $24.5 million, or about $9,300 per unit, and they would still not be in full compliance with Local Law 97. The $1.5 million penalty in 2030 will be reduced to $880,000, he said, and the board prefers boilers, saying that heat pumps for electrical systems do not generate enough heat when the temperatures fall below 30 degrees. So when you start to look at these costs that that property owners are going to be facing, and renters are going to be facing, because all of these costs are going to continue to be pushed on to the people. So when you have more and more people having their wealth stripped from them, their taxes increasing, and the cities falling apart, what are you going to have? You're going to have a massive government that's going to want to, be in power, right? They're going to want to be, the government's going to become more powerful, more dominant than ever before. That's what's happening here. And when you look at what's going on here with these police officers, it's pretty shocking, right? So the cops are going to drop to the lowest level since 1990. I mean, 30 years, 30 plus years, 34 years, you're looking at this. The lowest level since 1990, with the highest inflation rate that we've ever seen, with the most debt that we've ever seen, with the most laxed crime policies that we've ever seen, and then you have less cops. Like, this is a recipe for complete disaster. A recipe for complete disaster. So currently there's 36,000 officers, and they are going to be firing 4,000 of these cops over the next 2 years. Now, what's happening with schools? Parents rip into Eric Adams after mayor says that they might have to volunteer to protect New York City schools after new safety agents. They say that Mayor Eric Adams said Tuesday parents might have to volunteer to keep Big Apple schools safe after hundreds of newly trained safety agents were cut, but the idea was quickly ripped by some parents who raged, "It's not my job." We're going to be learning leaning into parents and parent groups to do some volunteerism. How can they volunteer when they can barely feed themselves, right? About the new class of 250 safety agents that were recently axed as the cost of migrant crisis continues to cripple the city. We're going to get this crisis management team, he continued, with a weekly City Hall press conference. We are going to be straightening at the very top, at the very high level, to be done correctly. So when you look at this, you're like, okay, so you have police, you have schools, and then, I mean, the budget cuts also, they're only just starting, $2.1 billion in cuts. So when you look at what this solution is going to be, this is what it's going to be. They're going to move everything into technology. Everything is going to be about robotics. Everything's going to be about drones. This is where this budget cut situation, this is only the beginning. Look at this. So, I mean, what are the odds that all of this just happens to coincide just like this, right? So New York City robot gets tryout to patrol Times Square, right? Kind of scary. Subway riders turn to new robot. So you have this, then you have this DigiDog. You have all these different robotic, all this technology. Now you have drones also to assist in patrol. Think about how much easier it would be if you're looking at it from a business aspect. If you were to run a business, let's say you needed 20 employees, and you could replace 20 employees with 30 drones or 40 drones. No salary, no pension, you have no sick days, you have no lawsuits, you have no aggravation, no stress. You just have one or two people managing the 20 drones, and then you have a couple people that are actually, assisting the drones or assisting enforcement. I mean, it would make your life a hell of a lot easier, right? So imagine when you have an entire city like this, you have more data on people, you have more, you're more powerful than ever before, right? So it's stripping away the authority from the traditional system, moving in this direction. Eric Adams accessed $547 million from New York City Education Department, but more on the way. Yeah, $547 million they've committed to. They're going to $2.1 billion. And this is where things get really interesting. This is where things get really interesting that people don't really follow this website, but they should, because it is so important when you look at some of these, you look at some of these names. Like, this is not just some type of, fly-by-night operation. You got Bloomberg right here, right? He's the board of directors, right? He's the board of director. You got Bloomberg there, and then you have some huge names that everyone knows. They're all a part of this, and they're all moving in this direction to move us here, right? You have Hillary right there. You have some really big names. So let's look at what New York City is doing right now, and you can also track it to other cities as well because these patterns are following. Let's look at New York City. So New York City, they are moving in this direction here. When you look at their, they have their divesting fossil fuels, right? So exactly what Eric Adams is doing with the climate, right? So you have divesting into fossil fuels, but then you have this Good Food Cities Accelerator, which is very interesting, which he says that he wants to support an overall increase in healthy plant-based food consumption in our cities and shifting away from unsustainable healthy diets. Well, look at what they're doing right here. This is nyc.gov. They say that they are reducing cities' food-based emissions by 33% by 2030 after releasing new greenhouse gas emission inventory incorporating emissions from food, right? So it's the same exact thing here, just coincidentally, right? So you know that this is probably all going to follow. You have Zero Waste Accelerator where they are even talking about reducing food waste. So how do you reduce food loss and reduce food waste if you keep the same level of current food supply out there, right? You're going to have to reduce the amount of available food to reduce the amount of waste, right? Because if there's less food available, there's going to be more people that are not going to waste food, right? So you're going to start seeing a lot of these changes. So the reason I share this is because if you're an investor, if you're thinking about investing in real estate, or if you're thinking about investing in businesses, you really need to pay attention to what the future is going to look like to make sure you're positioning yourself and your business in the right environment, right? Like I believe there's going to be a lot of opportunity in real estate, but it's not priced into the market yet, especially in a place like New York City. It's just not priced in. When you start to look at what's going to happen with taxes, taxes are likely going to continue to rise and the costs are going to continue to cripple property owners. As this happens, as interest rates are going to likely stay higher for longer, it's going to get harder to fund the cost of these repairs, meaning more and more distressed sellers are going to be coming on the market, right? You're going to start seeing a lot more stress coming. And then, I mean, the entire experience from living in New York City is about to change. But the big question is, what are the big opportunities? What are the big movements to make inside of the economy? I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity with e-commerce. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in certain businesses, but there's going to be a lot of losses that are going to be held from traditional business models and from a lot of Americans that are ignoring the trajectory that America is undergoing right now. We're walking into something huge here. When I say we're in the greatest wealth transfer of all time, I'm not just saying it to say it. This situation, even Mayor Adams, he's like, oh, this is in all my time of government, this is probably one of the most painful exercises I've gone through. He's making it about him and what he's going through, but imagine what is actually happening. As the people begin to buckle and fall to their knees, he gets more powerful and more dominant than ever before. And it's not just him, all of these other leaders as well. And so the more powerful, the more dominant that they are, the more people are going to beg for a solution. And when they beg for that solution, it just puts them in the position of almost being king. And that's what's happening right now. Position yourself well in the right business. Really look carefully at all the changes coming to the economy so that you can pivot and move, because money equals options and options equals wealth in the new normal. Drop below, let's have a conversation about it. And if you want to fix your credit to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description below this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.